Okie dokie. X and Y-intercepts. Not brand new, right? You should know what they are. But even though you can find them and you probably know what they are, there are some specifics that you maybe never really focused on that we need to make sure we keep straight. So what we should already know is that intercepts are points where a graph intersects the X or Y axis. An X-intercept occurs where Y equals 0. A Y-intercept occurs where X equals 0. That's definitely like way old business, right? A function, so specifically talking about functions, a function can have 0 plus X-intercepts, but at most one Y-intercept, because if it has more than one Y-intercept, it can't be a function, right? Make sense? Okay. What else can we call X-intercepts besides X-intercept that has lots of names? Zeros. What else we got? Roots. One more. Solutions. So zeros, roots, solutions, X-intercepts, they're all the same thing, right? Okay. Kind of the same thing. I mean, same concept. You can point to them on a graph, but how you answer the question is a little bit different. All right? So once you're done with this, go ahead and go to the next slide. And I don't always remember where I'll pick that up in a minute. I don't always remember where I broke the slides, but I think we're moving on here. Okay, so here's the difference. This says identify the X and Y-intercepts. If you're told to if I say give me the X-intercepts, you're going to give me a different kind of answer than if I said give me the zeros. Same concept, same place on the graph, but intercepts of any kind, intercepts are always ordered pairs. Okay, so if it specifically says X-intercept, your answer should be an ordered pair. So it's not just about being able to find it on the graph or from whatever, but also knowing how you need to answer your question. So if we look at this first example, what's my X-intercept? There's nothing there, right? So there's just none. Doesn't cross the X-axis, so it can't have any. Y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it crosses the Y-axis at 5. Is it 5, 0 or 0, 5? 0, 5, because your Y-intercept is when X is 0, so it is 0, 5. If you're afraid you're going to get that mixed up, we can't afford to get that mixed up anymore. I can tell on number 2 I have an X and a Y-intercept, so before I even worry about what the numbers are, say, well, the X-intercept is where Y is 0, the Y-intercept is where X is 0. Then I just got to put my numbers in the right spot. Whatever works for you, right? So your X-intercept then is 4, 0, and then 0, 2. We agree with that? All right. How many X-intercepts do I have in number 3? 4. I've got 4 of them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be nicer if they had asked me for the zeros, because then I can just put in a little set of numbers. But these are supposed to be ordered pairs, so I have to answer it that way. So I'm going to have -1, 0, then just a comma, because it's just a list of ordered pairs. Then 1, 0, 2, 0, and 3, 0. Okay? What questions do we have? We good with that? All right. And then your Y-intercept is what? 6, 0, 6. So then look at number 4. What are my X-intercepts? None. What about Y-intercepts? None, because it doesn't cross either axis, because on each axis, what's actually there that we don't see? Asymptotes. I have a vertical one right here and a horizontal one right there. Everybody good with all that? Yes? Awesome. So when you're done with that, go ahead and move on to the next one. So I asked you a minute ago, if I said X-intercepts, what else could we call it? Zeros was one of the things that you said. And we can call them, they're zeros, but again, it's how you answer the question. So I can't just say zeros are the X-intercepts, because that's not true. Zeros are the X values x, just the x value, where the function intersects the x-axis. So if you're asked for the zeros, it's not an ordered pair. It is a set of x values. So it's a different type of answer. So you need, when you read the question, make sure that you know how you're supposed to answer it. So when we're talking functions, then if you want to find the zeros, we know that the zeros, like the x-intercepts, it's where y equals 0, but we're talking functions, so y is really f of x. So we set f of x equal to 0 and solve for x. Right. And then to find the y-intercept, I want to set x equal to 0, so that means I'm basically just finding f of 0. All that makes sense? We good? All right, so let's do a few then. So this says find the 0 or zeros and the y-intercept of each function algebraically, which means we're not graphing it and picking it off the graph. So to find the zeros, I start by setting f of x equal to 0. So I get 0 equals negative absolute value of x minus 5 plus 3. So in order to solve an absolute value equation, I have to isolate the absolute value itself. So since it's negative, I'll just take this whole thing and add it over to this side. So I'll get the absolute value of x minus 5 equals 3. When you solve an absolute value equation, how many answers do you get? Most of the time. 2. I mean, you could get 1, you could get 0, depending on where it is. But I should get 2. Right? No, actually, I should get 2 no matter what. I was thinking of the others. Anyway, so I should get 2 of these. And that means I have to rewrite it like so. I have x minus 5 equals 3. And then I have the negative of whatever's inside, x minus 5 equals 3. So for this first one, I add 5 to both sides. I get x equals... I could add x equals 8. And then here, I think I'm just going to multiply both sides by negative 1, so I get x minus 5 equals negative 3. So then I will get x equals 2. So I have 2 answers here. They're asking me for zeros, so they are not ordered pairs. It's going to be a set of x values, least to greatest. It's 2 and 8. What questions do you have? Are we all good? All right. Go ahead. How come the negative 5 didn't turn? Because I didn't distribute this, I multiplied both sides by a negative 1. Does that make sense? I could, if it had been a positive, this would have been a negative x plus 5. So you could have distributed it here too. Either way works. Okay, that's a good question. Does that make sense? Okay. Anything else? All right, so then I also need to find f of 0. So that's equal to negative absolute value of 0 minus 5 plus 3. All right, so 0 minus 5, that makes this negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5, but then I have to multiply by that negative 1, so it's still a negative 5 plus 3, so I get negative 2. This says y-intercept, so it is an ordered pair. So it's 0, negative 2. Okay. What questions do you have? And let me just state this again. When you solve it, because I was mixing up my words earlier. When you solve an absolute value equation, you could get 0, 1, or 2 answers. It just depends on like where it is in the graph, but mostly you set it up like you're going to get 2 every time. It's the way I should have said that. All right, what questions we got? We good? All right. Now let's look at the next one. It says find the zero, same directions. So set f of x equal to 0. 0 equals 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. So in order to solve that, I have to do what? Factoring. And I don't have a GCF, unfortunately. And I'm going to do grouping because nobody could tell me how else they had learned it, so that's what we're going to do. So 2 times negative 4 is a negative 8. I need it to multiply to give me a negative 8, add to give me negative 7. What are my numbers? Negative 8 and positive 1. So I get 2x squared minus 8x plus x minus 4. Then I'm going to do my grouping. I'm going to get 2x times x minus 4, and then plus 1 times x minus 4. And pay attention to the fact that I have these equal signs coming down. You have to show what things are equal to and keep your work in an organized fashion. So then this leaves me with x minus 4 times 2x plus 1. So 0 equals. So once you have it factored, then you have to use your zero product rule, and you take each factor and set it equal to 0. So I'd have x minus 4 equals 0, and 2x plus 1 equals 0. You don't get to stop at this step and then just come up with your answers. So then I get x equals 4, and x equals negative 1/2. Least to greatest, negative 1/2, 4. I think that's why some people get mixed up with grouping, is because they stop here, because you could figure out your zeros by reasoning through here, but you got to get it factored all the way. Okay. Everybody good with the zeros? Alrighty. So then y-intercept, f of 0 equals 2 times 0 squared minus 7 times 0 minus 4. So f of 0 just equals negative 4. Did I really even need to do any work there? No, because you should be able to tell that those just zero out. Okay. What questions do we have? Are we good? All right, then you work on the next one on your own. Get it factored all the way. Be confident in your abilities. The other reason a lot of people struggle is because you have zero confidence. You got to stop. I got a lot of signs around my room that talks about negative self-talk, right? Don't tell yourself you can't do it or you're not going to be able to do it. Don't forget your equal signs. Did you already do number 9? It's fine that you've started that. I just know what. If you finish the other one and went on, that's fine. But yeah, go back and go ahead and do that one. That way you're not confused when I go up there and start. That's why I couldn't see you up there. You can just treat it like a quadratic when you first factor it. Just pretend like it's a quadratic. And you can do grouping, but you don't have to. If that leading coefficient is 1, you don't need to split that middle term. Once you come up with your numbers, basically you have your answer to what the factoring is. So you're kind of just putting more steps in there for yourself that aren't necessary. Not wrong, but not necessary either. And who wants to do extra work? Nobody wants to do extra work. That should be your first step of your factoring. Then you should be able to keep going from there. Swazi, your stuff looks good. Just don't forget your equal signs out to the left. Joelle, same with you. Equal signs. Acela. Good job. Kylie, Brenda, Daisy, y'all listen to me. Good job. So then both of these are what kind of situation? Difference of squares. So it gives me x plus 2 times x minus 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. So then x plus 2 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0. I'm okay with you not writing all that out every time as long as you know what you're doing and why. So I get x equals negative 2, x equals 2, x equals negative 1, x equals 1. So there's a couple of different ways that you could write the set of your answers. If I want to just list these out, I have negative 2, negative 1, 1, and 2 in order from least to greatest. Perfectly fine. If that's what you wrote in your little blank, 100% okay. But there's another way I could write it. How else could I write it? Plus or minus. Since I have a positive and negative 2 and a positive and negative 1, I could say I have plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 2. Either way is totally fine. I would take either one, yeah. There's times, though, that we might have a whole long list of things and you kind of want to do it this way for your own sanity, but I'd take it either way. It's fine. And I'm pretty sure that Delta Math takes it either way also. I mean, that's always another concern. Make sure we're typing it in right. But they're very good about, taking different types of answers. All right, so then f of 0, that means I'm typing 0 or substituting 0 in. That would 0 out. That would 0 out. Just leaves me with 4. So just 4. We're at 0, 4. Okay. What questions do you have? We're all good? If you're good, then you move on to number 10. And when you factor, what should always be the first thing you're looking for? GCF. Look for your GCF. It will make your life easier. Alexa, Ashley, Anai, Brenda. Okay. Kylie, Devin, Daisy. Yes. Joelle, Gabriel, Isela. Isela, look at me. I need to see your face when I say your name. Okay. I need it for my brain. Okay. Phoebe, V, Swazi, Shaylee. Okay. Nyla, Jorge, Kayleen. Okay. Let's see if I can remember that at the door tomorrow. Make sure that you are factoring out your GCF first, otherwise you're just going to stare at it. So you can't get to the binomial part until you have factored out your GCF. make sure you've done that before you go any farther. And then some of you have some algebra that looks really good past that, but your final answer is not correct. So once I do this, and here's why I don't need to do grouping. I could, but I don't need to. I need two numbers that are going to multiply to give me -7 and combine to give me -6. And I know this is x, and these have to be different. So I know it's going to have to be 7 and 1. I can just go ahead and plop them in here. I don't need to split the term and then do all that because that's just basically what I'm going to end up with. Okay? Here's the thing. If you got this far, you need to double check how many factors you have with how many zeros you have. How many factors do we have? 3. We have 1, 2, 3. And your zero product rule says you take each factor and set it equal to 0. So this would be x equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 7 equals 0. So I have x equals 0, x equals -1, and x equals 7. So y'all did a great job of not dropping the x off while you were factoring, which is good because sometimes things that you factor out disappear and they can never disappear. But I have 3 zeros in the end. I have -1, 0, and 7. Don't forget that 0. He's important. When I was in school back in my day, everybody pretty much took Algebra 2 after Algebra 1. So I was a freshman in Algebra 2, and the very first day of school, my Algebra 2 teacher came in dressed as the number 0 and gave us this whole long thing about the importance of the number 0. And like, don't forget him, and he's important. I wish I remember what it actually was because it was cute, but I don't. My memory's not that good. All right, so then I need f of 0. Well, if I substitute 0 in, I get 0, 0, 0. It's 0. Here's the other thing. Anytime you have a 0 that's 0, like one of your x-intercepts is 0, then your y-intercept is going to be 0, 0. It has to be. Okay? Yes? If there was no y-intercept, what would the graph look like? Well, as far as what would the equation look like, it would, let me think about that for a second. You would have, it would probably end up being mostly the rational stuff that we get to, where you have to think about asymptotes and things like that, vertical asymptotes. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's where it would be, yeah. It's a very good question. Anything else? Alrighty, then go ahead and get this submitted. Your assignment that's informative is due today. Then you have another one today that is in Delta Math, okay? And I try not to make them too long. I mean, you don't need to, if you have like 20 problems on the exact same thing, it's because you need 20 problems on that exact same thing. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that. Just a couple, but if you need more practice, you can always do more. Just remember that.